The kingdom of Ethelgard was a realm slowly licking its wounds from a dark, bloody past. In the quiet chambers of Blackwood Manor, the air smelled of dried lavender and approaching death. Lady Lyra sat beside the bed of her mother, Lady Sylvestra, holding her fragile, trembling hand. For as long as Lyra could remember, a shadow of sorrow had hung over her mother's eyes, a shadow Lyra blamed entirely on one man, Sir Julian. He was a name spoken only in whispers, the former royal knight who had allegedly abandoned Sylvestra decades ago, leaving her broken and forcing her into a loveless marriage with Lyra's late father. Lyra despised him. Yet, with her final breaths, Sylvestra gestured toward a locked, intricately carved wooden chest resting on the oak table. It was heavy, filled with dozens of thick parchment scrolls sealed with dark wax. "Take it to Prague," Sylvestra whispered, her voice barely louder than the winter wind rattling the window panes. "Cross the northern sea. Find Sir Julian at the Citadel. Give him the chest, my child. Promise me." Lyra's heart hardened, but looking at her mother's pleading tears, she bowed her head. "I promise, Mother." She would fulfill the dying wish, but she vowed she would look the coward in the eye and make him answer for a lifetime of stolen happiness. After a brutal, punishing sea voyage across roaring northern waters, Lyra arrived at the Citadel of Prague, a fiercely independent sanctuary city built into frozen white cliffs. Snow blanketed the cobblestone streets, and the biting wind cut through her heavy wool cloak. Lyra tracked the infamous name through the lower artisan district. She expected to find an arrogant, wealthy turncoat living in comfort. Instead, she was pointed to a modest, soot-stained blacksmith's forge and scholar's workshop at the edge of the city. When she stepped inside the warm, dimly lit workshop, she saw him. Sir Julian was no longer the towering golden knight depicted in old royal tapestries. He was an aging man with a gray beard, weathered skin, and shoulders bowed by years of silent labor. He was hammering a piece of hot steel, his movements precise and solitary. Lyra dropped the heavy wooden chest onto his workbench. "Lady Sylvestra is dead," Lyra said coldly, her voice cutting through the ringing of iron. "Her last wish was for me to deliver this to you. Sign my receipt of delivery so I may leave this frozen rock." Julian froze. The hammer slipped from his calloused hand, clattering onto the stone floor. He stared at the wooden chest, his breathing ragged, a profound, agonizing shock washing over his aged features. Yet, instead of opening it, Julian took a step back, his face hardening into an impenetrable mask. "Take it back," Julian rasped, turning away from her. "I have no use for ghosts. Leave, pray, girl." Before Lyra could explode with rage, the heavy tolling of the city bells echoed through the workshop. A massive northern blizzard had swept in from the sea, freezing the harbor ice solid. No ships would leave Prague for months. Lyra was trapped in the sanctuary city, stranded with the man she hated most. For weeks, the blizzard raged outside. Lyra, forced to take lodging in a room above Julian's workshop, relentlessly confronted the silent blacksmith. One freezing evening, her pent-up resentment finally boiled over. "You let her rot in sorrow," Lyra yelled, standing in the doorway of his study. "She waited for you. While my father treated her like a piece of property, you hid here in safety. What kind of knight abandons his betrothed without a single word?" Julian slammed his book shut. The quiet, broken blacksmith vanished, replaced for a terrifying instant by the commanding royal knight of Athelgard. His eyes burned with a fierce, tragic intensity. "You know nothing of Athelgard's history, child," Julian's voice boomed in the small room. "You think I fled for comfort?" Pushed to the brink, Julian finally revealed the truth burned out of the royal archives. Decades ago, during the Black Raven coup, a ruthless usurper slaughtered the rightful king and seized the throne. At the time, Julian had been sent on a diplomatic mission to Prague. The usurper sent black-cloaked envoys to the citadel, demanding Julian kneel and swear an oath of blood loyalty to the new regime. "To kneel was to endorse the slaughter of my king," Julian said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "I refused, and for my honor, the usurper stripped me of my knighthood, burned my ancestral lands to ash, and placed a price of gold on my head. Had I stepped 1 foot across the border of Athelgard, I would have been hanged as a traitor." Lyra stared at him, shaken by the revelation, but her anger still lingered. "Even if you were exiled, why did you never write? Why didn't you send a message or find a way to smuggle her out? You left her in total silence." Julian looked at her with a sorrow so deep it seemed to swallow the light in the room. Without a word, he walked to a corner of his study and unlocked a battered bronze chest of his own. He thrown the lid back. Inside were hundreds of scrolls of parchment, some yellowed with age, some fresh, each one tied carefully with ribbon. "Every week," Julian choked out, his hands trembling as he touched the scrolls. "For 25 years, I wrote to her." He looked up at Lyra, tears finally spilling over his weathered cheeks. During the coup, the Royal Inquisition monitored every raven, every merchant ship, and every courier entering the capital. They hunted anyone connected to the Old Guard. If a single letter bearing my hand or name had reached your mother's house, the Inquisition would have dragged her to the dungeons. They would have tortured her for harboring treason. Julian stood tall, the crushing weight of his silent sacrifice bare before her. "I chose to let her believe I was a coward. I chose to let her hate me and marry another man, because her hatred kept her safe. Her silence kept her alive." The silence in the room was absolute. Lyra fell to her knees beside the bronze chest, tears streaming down her face as she touched the hundreds of unsent letters. Her hatred, the poison she had carried for years, completely dissolved, replaced by a devastating awe. This man was not a coward. He was the purest embodiment of chivalry, a knight who had sacrificed his own name and happiness to serve as a silent shield for the woman he loved. As the long winter continued, the ice between them melted. Stranded together, Julian became the protective, wise father figure Lyra had been denied her entire life. He recognized the shadows in Lyra's own eyes, the trauma of her own past, having fled an arranged, abusive betrothal orchestrated by the corrupt lords of Athelgard before her mother's death. Julian taught her how to stand tall, how to read philosophy, and how to forge her own strength. Together, by the warmth of the hearth, they finally broke the lock on Lady Sylvestra's wooden chest. Inside, among Sylvestra's most treasured memories, was a final letter addressed to Julian. Lyra read it aloud, her voice breaking. "My dearest Julian, I never believed their lies. I knew the honor of your soul, and I knew that if you did not return, It was because you were protecting me from the storm. Do not mourn for what was lost. My dying will is not to open old wounds, but to heal new ones. I send you my greatest treasure, my daughter, Lyra. Protect her from the cruelty of Ethelgard, as you once protected me. When spring finally arrived, the warm winds melted the harbor ice of Prague. Great wooden merchant ships unfurled their sails, ready to voyage back to the kingdom of Ethelgard. Lyra stood at the bustling docks, her bags packed, watching the ships. Sir Julian stood beside her, his shoulders standing a little straighter now, the decades of guilt finally lifted from his soul. He looked at her with a gentle, fatherly smile. "The sea is clear, Lyra," Julian said softly. "You can go home now." Lyra looked out at the ships heading toward Ethelgard, a land of rigid cages, political marriages, and painful memories. Then she turned and looked back at the citadel of Prague, with its white cliffs, free artisans, and the small blacksmith shop where truth and honor still lived. She reached out and took Julian's calloused hand. "Ethelgard is not my home," Lyra smiled, a genuine, radiant peace in her eyes. "My mother sent me here to find a true knight. I think I will stay in Prague and build my own freedom." Sir Julian's eyes shone with pride. Together, the exiled knight and the emancipated daughter walked away from the harbor, heading back through the snowy streets of the sanctuary city, no longer bound by the ghosts of the past, but ready to write a new future.